Hello there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Purple Breakdown. I am your host, Alex, and I'm so excited to be back here on another episode with you all. It is an amazing, wonderful Monday. I hope everyone is enjoying the start to their amazing week and is going to enjoy it. It's great other weather out there right now. I do know that some rain will be coming in here soon, especially tomorrow in this area, but I can't let that dampen spirits, especially as the NBA playoffs continue and so does the NHL playoffs. And baseball's in full swing. Got a lot of good stuff going on right now. So go on out and enjoy that. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the Baltimore Ravens, that Flock Nation. Let's jump right on into that. But first, if you like the content that you are going to hear here, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. It really helps the community grow. And I really just want to read you guys' comments and talk Ravens football. And when you guys comment, I get to talk more Ravens football. And your comments can be featured here in the long form videos like this. We always start off every episode with the in the long form videos with the comments. So that's what we're going to start and dive into right now. So let's get to comments of the day. First up is Corey. You say, "Love you, kid. Keep up the good work." Thank you for the support, Corey. I want to keep putting out great work for you all and making sure you guys are staying up, informed, and updated, and provide a good spot for a platform for Ravens fans to discuss and get out there and talk a little more. And so I really hope you're enjoying it and can continue to enjoy it. Thank you for the support, Corey. I like how you call me a kid a little bit. I am 23 now, so I don't feel like a kid, especially when working in the education field a little bit and getting called old. It's like, oh, I get called kid and I'm like, feels a little nice because I get called old all day. NTE, you are up next, and you say, "Do you think they could possibly trade Bateman for a center? I wouldn't mind anyway trading for a center or signing free agent, but if we traded Bateman, I would love to see Jacoby Lane or Elijah Surratt at wide receiver too." I think this is a possibility in looking at a trading for center. Now, do I think Bateman specifically gets traded away? And I said this in my response. I don't think so. I think they have a lot of confidence in Bateman and especially bringing him up as that wide receiver too and having a resurgent year. And Doyle has a view for him going into this next year on what he wants him to do. He will truly be that downfield receiver, especially when they're not in the red zone. I have a strong feeling he will be the vertical stretching the field wide receiver when they're not going into the red zone. Now, when they're going into the red zone, I could very much see Jacoby Lane being brought in as the taller guy, as being that vertical threat, climbing the ladder, getting up in while in the end zone and catching those balls and making those contested catches. That could be his role, but when they're not in the red zone, I feel like it'll be Rashad Bateman that'll be the one being out there, and Doyle has a system that he wants to use him in that, and especially when they're going to be hunting more explosive plays down the field, Bateman will have a role in that. And when looking at it, if you trade Bateman away, you're losing your most experienced wide receiver two behind Zay Flowers, who's the obvious wide receiver one, and you're left with really Devontae Walker, LeJohntay Wester, and then two rookies, and Walker and LeJohntay have not gotten as much play and experience in real time in games as what Bateman and Flowers have had. And so I feel like they would rather stick with those two as the core and then have a fight for wide receiver three and let guys compete not only for that position, but play situationally and know when you need certain guys out there and when you can change it up and put in who you need to succeed. And they probably are going to want to keep the wide receiver room more expansive for this, especially keeping Lamar happy and making sure that he has weapons that allow him to be versatile in a whole bunch of different situations. But I can definitely see the Ravens trading for a center, and I want to go into that and talk about that. It'll actually be one of our segments that we'll go into and talk in a little bit. So I'm going to hold off on just a little bit that NT, and we'll go in and talk about that more towards the end of the episode. But thank you for the comment, NT. It's great to hear from you as always, and thank you, Corey, as well. Shout out to you too. And if you would like your comments featured in the next video, make sure to comment and they will be featured in the next long form video. All right, let's jump in to the main juicy stuff of today. And that is that the Ravens have signed another quarterback into the quarterback room going into this summer. And they have brought in veteran quarterback Skyler Thompson. He was previously on the Steelers this past year, but was pretty much injured the whole year. and then previously was 4 years on the Dolphins, and he hasn't gotten too many starts. I believe he's only gotten 10 starts his entire career. But this isn't a pickup to compete for QB2 or QB1. Nobody's going to be pushing Lamar, and in my opinion, nobody's going to be pushing Snoop unless one of the rookies between Fagnano and Pavia have an amazing time. But I don't think anyone will be pushing Snoop because of what he did this past year and showing that he could keep the Ravens competitive and win games and keep them going until Lamar could get back. And so I don't think anyone's pushing him. This is more adding to the room and saying, we are looking for what's best at the team. We want 3 quarterbacks on the roster coming into the season, and we're going to have a fight for who will be quarterback 3 and possibly maybe make a larger impact in the future. You have one experienced veteran in the room, so if the 2 UDFAs don't pan out between Pavia and Fagnano, that you have an experienced guy like Skyler Thompson that is there. And if one of them pans out, then you have a UDFA that possibly in the future when Snoop is let go and again and moves on, that you have a guy that can move up into that QB2 slot, hopefully between the 2 of those. And so this is just a move to bring in somebody who has experience, can help coach up young guys, not only coach up young guys, but bring competition into that room. And that's one of the things that Mentor really stressed is, well, how many quarterbacks do you want going into this next season? He's, well, in the off season when training's going on, 3 to 5 is really this sort of ideal mark to go towards. And that's truthful. You're looking for the guys that'll be playmakers and that could be a impact on the team in the future. And so having 3 guys to compete for QB3 is the right thing to do right now, and it'll put pressure on those guys to compete and go out and to show what they got, like how Mentor called out Pavia and said, show us what you got, make your mark here. It's got to be the same for Fagnano and for Thompson, that they have to show up and they have to show out and say, this is what we're made of. We're here for QB3. And possibly if we perform well enough, maybe get a shot at pressing for quarterback 2, but I don't think that'll happen. I think Snoop is that very solid quarterback 2. And then come time when it's time to cut down the roster, that they might keep one of those guys on at QB3 on the full roster there and in through the season. But that's just the pickup as of right now. I know it's not the pickup I wanted to be hearing right now. I would love to have been hearing that the Ravens were possibly signing another wide receiver, interior linebacker, edge, center, really center, but that didn't happen, and they are bringing in veteran quarterback Skyler Thompson, and that's going into what Mentor said this past week with the press conferences going on and saying, hey, look, we're in a quarterback competition for QB3, and this is what we're going to do. And so that's the big news of signings coming out of today. And moving on to the one other news that I wanted to talk about today, and because there's really not that much coming out right now, so we're more just going over the basics of what is occurring right now. Should the Ravens trade for a center? And this is going back to NTE, your comment, should they trade in for a center? And there are trade targets out there. The most obvious one that everyone's pointing to right now is Garrett Bradbury. And we're gonna talk about him right now, because when you look at center being such a coveted position and really showing Linderbaum getting that record-setting contract at the Raiders, the center is one of the linchpins of the offense and is a very valued and coveted position. And going into a season where you have Super Bowl aspirations, you need a solid center to make that happen. And one of the ways the Ravens can go about getting that solid starting center would be Garrett Bradbury. He's on the Bears right now. He's had multiple year starts. He came off the Patriots. He's to the Bears and was traded actually from the Patriots to the Bears. And so he's had lots of experience. He's a big guy. I mean, you look at his size, he's 6'3", 300 pounds, could fit the scheme that the Ravens really like. He didn't have as high a PFF grade this year with a 56.2 run blocking grade and a 63.1 pass blocking grade and a 60.1 overall. But that doesn't mean that he can't be a really efficient center, especially within the Ravens offense at 30 years old with the experience. Is one thing that the Ravens really value, is having a guy that could come in and bring a lot of experience straight into the O-line. And not only talking about the experience that he'd bring, but the level-headedness that he could be a leader on that O-line and help coach guys up and bring them forward and bring them out more. Now, when looking at his contract, he does have a cap hit of roughly 5.7 million this next year going into the 2026-2027 season, which isn't bad. And the Ravens could trade in for that. And when the Bears traded for him, it was a 5th round pick. And so you could expect that the Ravens could probably they could keep Bateman and trade away a 5th or a 4th round pick to bring him in, though I would lean more towards the 5th, like what the Bears did to get him. I think that's more what he's worth. And he could be a successful center on the Ravens offensive line. However, I don't think it would happen soon. When you look at it, they just brought in Logan Jones, and Logan Jones has the capability to be a really good center within the league. It's just a question, will it be this next year he's starting or years to come? And after some development, I thought if he got drafted by the Ravens, he could be an immediate plug-in starter and would be one of the starting center, well, would be the starting center for the Ravens and immediately go in. And the Ravens have guys on the roster. They have Corey Bullock. They have Danny Pinter. They have Javon Gwynn, these guys that could get the opportunity to be starting center and will get reps, I'm sure, in training camp to have the ability to try and be that starting center. However, I don't really have much confidence in them, especially when you see how important a great center is, and you can't go cheap on that. And I also sort of look at this with Garrett Bradbury and saying, yeah, they have Logan Jones. They could get rid of Garrett Bradbury, but they don't know what they fully have in Logan Jones yet. As high as I am on him and how well I think he will become, they are not going to trade him away until they fully know what they got out of Logan Jones. And if they go into training camp and see that they really love Logan Jones, they'll probably shop Garrett Bradbury around. And that's when the Ravens can pounce and strike. If they don't like fully what they're seeing out of Logan Jones yet, they're probably going to keep him, let him develop, and keep Garrett Bradbury, and he'll be the starting center going into the year, which makes it difficult for the Ravens again. This is where, if I'm the Ravens, I'm still looking at free agency, and I'm looking towards Ethan Pocic or Graham Glasgow, and I still lean more heavy towards Ethan Pocic. I think he could fit really heavily and well into the Ravens offensive system. And talking about a big guy that has lots of experience and could be an immediate impact on the team, Ethan could be that same thing that everyone is talking about Garrett Bradbury and what he could be for the Ravens. But the only thing is, with both these guys, they're both older centers that those types of guys don't get brought in until later into the summer. It's just how the veterans typically operate. They don't sign those contracts till later, and so expect that to come later. And I'm expecting center to get filled later into this offseason. As much as that hurts and makes us worry, that's probably how it's going to be. But I would not be expecting to go into the season with Corey Bullock, Javon Gwynn, or Danny Pinter being the starter right now. Bullock, in my opinion, would be the best one out of all of them at this moment, but I don't feel confident in having him be the starter right now either. So that is the news I've got for today. I know it's been a short podcast episode, but not much went on. I just want to talk a little simple, talk center, talk who the Ravens have brought in, and just start the ball rolling. So I want to actually throw out a question to all of you guys first and real quick is, who do you want to see coming in at center? Do you think the Ravens should let Bullock or Gwynn or Pinter have that starting job? Or are you really thinking, no, let's go out, let's trade? And if you're wanting to trade, are you wanting to trade for Garrett Bradbury or wanting to trade for somebody else at center? There's other centers out there that could be available. Or are you going free agency and wanting Graham Glasgow or Ethan Pocic? I want to hear what your guys' thoughts and opinions are on. I'm still leaning a lot more towards Ethan Pocic and having him get brought in, but I want to hear what you guys are thinking on it. So thank you all so much for joining in and listening to the podcast. I hope you liked what you heard, and if you didn't, comment about it anyways. It really helps with the analytics regardless anyways. So I want to thank you all for joining in and listening. If you like the content that you're hearing, please consider subscribing, liking, and commenting. If you're on Spotify, doing the same, following, reviewing, and leaving a comment. Again, your comments can be featured here in the long form videos in the comments of the day. And it just makes me happy and smile because I get to hear from you guys. So I want to thank you all so much for joining in and listening. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you all later.